in ZvZ, you have a pretty wide range of styles, but a lot of them gravitate either toward a roach direction or a mutalist direction. And you can end up with either a symmetric ZvZ or an asymmetric ZvZ. So a symmetric one would be you make roaches, they make roaches, roach fights. That's kind of how the match goes. Or they go mutas, you go mutas, and it's muta fights. Who has more workers, who has more upgrades, who has more units. Or you have an asymmetric one where one person is going for a bunch of roaches and one person is going for more of a muta-based composition. So this was a match where it was asymmetric. I was going for Ling Bane, and normally I go for roach, but there's an alternate way to approach muta play. You don't necessarily have to go for Roach Queen, Hydra, Infestor, whatever against Muta. You can go for Lings with heavy upgrades with an Ultra transition, and you get an earlier Hive. So the edge here would be tech. The early game here, it's not super important. Hatch first versus pool first. That means that my Ling speed is done a little bit sooner. My Bane tech is done a little bit sooner. But nobody really dies in the early game here. We'll see how even the mid game ended up being. So third base, my Ling speed finishes earlier. I get some pickups. Third base over here. I'm a little bit behind in workers, but then as I attack, I'm droning. See, I have 32 workers and a third base now. So I have the larva lead, and this is one of the most important things in ZvZ, that you can identify whether it's roach versus roach, roach versus muta, whatever. Who has the larva advantage? That means who's generating more larva with hatches and injected hatches. So right now I have 2 injected hatches, and I will have a larva advantage whenever this one is injected. My opponent has this space not injected, this space is injected, and there's no third base. So I already have double the larva income. Well, almost double. A hatchery generates larva one at a time, assuming there aren't 3 larvae already on the ground. And these Ling Bane fights, the micro is pretty important. You can definitely die in Ling Bane fights, but the most important thing is to make sure that your bases are saturated pretty well and you have your money spent. So I'm spending my money pretty well here, and I'm going for Carapace. Carapace applies to Lings and Roaches. If you feel like you're dying to mutas a lot, but you do okay in Roach versus Roach, you can try for a Carapace upgrade, because this does benefit you against Ling Bane attacks. And if you go for a Ling Bane attack, the Carapace can help you. So I split my workers a little bit there. But all in all, worker count is still pretty even. Who has the larva advantage? I injected my bases. And we've got a muta play. So Ling in the main. We see the lair. Injecting the bases. And I'm just spamming queens. Well, look at the queen count here. I have 5 right now. And one of my objectives is getting creep connection. I want to make sure all my bases have creep. So I have a tumor here. And I'm not really rushing for a lair. I'm going for 1/1 upgrades first, which allows me to leverage my larva advantage with some Ling harass. This isn't like lethal stuff. I'm not hitting a crucial timing. I'm just forcing actions out of my opponent while I get to make more use of my third base. So if I have the mineral lead, that means I can have the queen lead, which pushes mutas into more of a defensive role rather than an offensive role. And I'm not really getting spores until I already have a whole bunch of queens. So the first round of mutas isn't that substantial. It's like 8 to 10 mutas, which you can defend 8 to 10 mutas with 8 queens pretty easily. Once the muta count gets up to 20, you're going to want to have a lot more queens than that, and you're going to have a bunch of spores. So I delayed my lair for a pretty long time. I'm going for this base, kind of fitting with the theme of taking the mineral advantage. Lings are running around, forcing the opponent back. I'm getting spores. So this would be a larva-oriented double upgrade strat with heavy queen to survive muta play. You could also play roaches instead. So you could say that me going Ling Bane compared with you going roaches and queens, they're more or less equivalent. The thing that's nice about going for melee and Carapace instead of ranged and Carapace is you can go for an Ultra transition against Mutas later on. And it's a little bit counterintuitive because you would think, what? Ultras versus Mutas? Ultras can't shoot up. That's beside the point. Mutas take forever to kill Ultras because they attack pretty fast, but their attack doesn't deal very much damage, and the glaive bounce does almost nothing to Ultras, which is a pretty big part of the Mutas DPS because Ultras have so much armor. And with this build, I'm already getting 2-2, getting my Infestation Pit, and then I'm going to work on a Hive. And the Hive is going to unlock Viper for me. Viper means that I have some AoE to fight the air stuff. And look at how many queens I have. The Mutas can't mess with this space. I have 2 spores. They can basically shoot together anytime the Mutas come in, and the queens can transfuse these. So you anchor your bases with spores. I have 1 here. I have 3 in the main here. This one is protecting the transfer spot. These 2 are protecting the hatch. In my natural, I have 1 in front of the base. And you notice how they're in front rather than in the mineral line. So this is different spore placement than you would have against Battle Cruiser or Banshee or something like that. You want to be thinking about when the Mutas swoop in, what are they going to hit first? If the Mutas swoop in from over here, they would hit this side of my base first. If they swoop in from here, they're going to run over this spore and this spore before they can get to my hatch. If they swoop in from here, they're going to hit this spore. That's why I cut a spore back here, because I'm covering the front of my bases. Same thing with these. The Mutas are most likely to swoop in this way, and then the queens are covering this side of it. So we have a drone lead. We have 16 queens. This could be troublesome if the opponent transitioned into a heavy Roach Ravager max out. But one thing that I can tell is the Muta count is really high. Like, this is 20 Mutas. You can't really afford another substantial ground force. It's just too costly. So that's why I feel confident to go mass queens. If you are playing a strategy which is more like 8 to 10 Mutas and then you switch into Roach Ravager, in that case you would only want to make about 10 queens. But in this case, all bets are off. It's mass Muta. Let's just make as many queens as we can. I'm even making more. And the queens benefit from the armor upgrade that we're getting here too, which is great. The Ling Bane is mainly just buying time. It's forcing reactions out, dealing bits of damage here and there. What's the unit worker killed? So we killed 15. It's not a ridiculous amount of damage, but it's enough to keep the opponent busy while we're reaching our goal of Hive Tech. Hive Tech is done. I made 4 Vipers. I have 22 queens, and then I'm just going to make Ultras. Ultras, and then if I run out of gas, I'm going to make Ling Bane. And then once we have this, we can pretty much just walk across the map. I forgot Bane speed here. That would be pretty nice to have. Oops. So yep, 22 queens. The Ling Bane is heavily upgraded. The Muta count is 23. So look at the damage of the Mutas on the Ultras. This is the key thing here. Why they're so good. Roaches running across or over. Sorry. Ultras are basically Hive Tech Roaches, but they have a cleave. So these Mutas have what? They have no upgrades, but it's 20 of them. And these 4 Ultras are just running underneath them, taking very little damage. I send some Lings into the main. But it's so much effort to kill these. And this is buying me time for the queens to run across. And the queens, with energy, they're gaining value for transfuses later on. They can transfuse Ultras, they can transfuse each other. And the Vipers are just supporting this army. They're standing nearby. You can just transfuse that up like nothing ever happened to that Ultra. And the Viper's just Parasitic Bomb. And then you A-move the Queens and the Ultras. And we have +3 armor for the Queens. +2, +3 for the ground melee stuff. And we have Chitinous Plating, so the Ultras have 5 armor now. Super tough units. And yeah, that's basically an an anti-Muta style. If you're struggling against Mutas, going heavy on the queens is great. Going up for hive tech really fast. And not throwing too many roaches at your opponent unless you're getting burrow and tunnel claws. Yeah, don't be afraid to make queens. Try to keep that larva advantage. That's probably the most important thing in ZvZ. Who is generating more larva? If you're microing your units instead of making sure your bases are injected, that might be the wrong choice. So you want to really be careful. If I'm going to pull my queens away to defend myself, that's fine. But you should make new queens at your other bases if you do that. Parasitic Bomb Ultra Queen versus Muta.